Welcome in. Monday morning, waiting on Nick to step back in the room. Time to talk some Hornets. We've got a game to talk about. Hornets, another close preseason game. This is good practice for the Hornets, who were not so great at close games last year. Dropped all of their overtime games. And when the game was close at the end, they yacked some away. So this is good, especially for the bench unit. They've gotten 2 straight games now where Clifford has left some of the deep reserves. There's Nick. What's going on, Nick?
Oh. How's it going? I'm right here.
Hey, we're in it. We're waiting on you, buddy.
Oh, I know. I apologize for that.
No, it's okay. This is a pre-show. This is the lounge. This is where we all kind of get in our groove.
Yeah, the music is a nice kicker. Let me see if I can adjust my head. There we go.
Yeah, too loud?
Oh, we're good.
Okay. Hey, what's going on in Raleigh? You don't know how supremely curious I am of Raleigh. I haven't spent much time there. What do you do? What do you do in Raleigh?
See, that's a question I used to ask years ago growing up, and I moved away, and then I came back, and now I'm answering that question, or starting to answer that question. Well, let's see. I mean, there are places to go.
Okay.
You know.
For example. You're like, there's a Wendy's down the street. It's a really good Frosties. I don't know if you heard of those Frosties.
I mean, there's a lot. I'm sure this is like true every place, but there's a lot of breweries. There's a lot of just, those kind of like just very outdoor areas and things like that. I'd say the place that's actually grown a lot more is Durham, at least downtown Durham. And I'm actually closer because I'm on like the edge. I'm like in North Raleigh, so I'm like the edge.
Bottom line, Charlotte better than Raleigh, right?
I
settle this debate. Just say
I haven't been in Charlotte enough to make that.
The answer's yes.
Conclusion. The answer's Wilmington, but we'll just.
I loved Wilmington.
Yeah.
I loved Wilmington. A lot of like really weird alleys in Wilmington with nice dive bars. Oh, we got some people. We got some new people in the live chat. Justin already saying Malik can be a star. Simon say g'day, and DJ quote Christ saying just has to get that percentage up. Let's start this show.
Let's do it.
You are Locked On Hornets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
In a minute, cuz we live.
This is Locked On Hornets, your daily podcast on the Charlotte Hornets and the NBA. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Search your podcast app for Locked On to get podcast on the NBA, the NFL, and fantasy sports. I'm Doug Branson, joined by my good friend Nick Denning from Raleigh. Nick, what's going on?
I'm adjusting to this small window that you have.
I know, I've put you in a little tiny box. Yeah, we've adjusted this screen a little bit. Yeah. You got your information down at the bottom here. This little corner box has our left and right. It's tough on the screen. Locked On the little Locked On box, that logo, that might have some advertisements in it in the future, hopefully. So yeah, this is looking good. We can put the chat up in the screen. Oh no, let's see. This is gonna block you out. I'll have to work on this.
That's okay.
Well, we can put the chat up on the screen. We can say hi to Justin, to Simon, to DJ. What's going on, guys? Keep chatting. Keep sending your questions in on the live chat here on YouTube. We try to stream live to YouTube as much as possible on this show. So if you haven't subscribed yet, youtube.com/Locked On Hornets. And make sure you're subscribed to the podcast. Just search your podcast app for Locked On Hornets. And really the most important part is to tell a friend. We are less than a week away. Nope, we're a little over a week away from the start of the regular season, and we want as many Hornets fans as possible to get in on this show. So make sure you're telling somebody about it. Big show ahead. We've got some breaking news that we're going to get to in just 1 second. Nick, don't know if you've seen this on Twitter yet, but we'll get to that in 1 second. We're also going to talk about this preseason game last night. I know a lot of you didn't get a chance to see it. We've got a little video to roll, some lob plays. That was a big story from this game in Miami. The Charlotte Hornets offense looking a lot different than it has over the past couple of years. Plus, in fairness to his airness, we've got some Michael Jordan news. Everybody loves Michael Jordan. You got to stick around for that news. But first, let's get to this breaking news. I'm going to pull up Twitter now. Rick Bonnell, beat writer for the Charlotte Observer, tweeting, his source says Nick Batum was told surgery is not necessary on his injured left elbow. Look out for the story there on Charlotte Observer, a source telling Rick Bonnell that Nick Batum was told surgery is not necessary. Now, let's talk about this news before we get to this post-game analysis, Nick. Now, told not necessary is not necessarily he's not going to do it. But he was told that it wasn't necessary. He sort of had two options, rest and rehab, which would keep him out anywhere from 6 weeks to 12 weeks, maybe even further. A lot of that's based on pain. Can he get out there? But surgery would have almost certainly ended his season. Nick, what do you make of this news?
That's pretty good news to wake up to. If you're, well, I think obviously
you're waking up with Locked On Hornets here on this Monday or Tuesday morning. I know what day it is.
Yeah, it's no, that's good. That's encouraging to know. I mean, like you said, it's not necessary, so he could go and do it himself. But I think given,
like, Batum knows how important this season is for, like, not just himself but for others. If there's if he's gotten the advice, if he's gotten the if he knows that he does not have to have surgery for this and he can play, I think he's going to try to probably go that rest and rehab route, and hopefully things work out.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the Hornets are certainly hoping that, because he is so integral to everything that they want to do offensively. He's one of their primary distributors. He makes Kemba Walker a lot better by allowing him to play off ball, and they were really hoping that he would develop a chemistry with Dwight Howard, and certainly Nick hoped that. He wanted to get more post touches for Dwight Howard, and we're going to talk about some of the things that Dwight Howard did in this game against Miami last night, and one wonders how much more they could do with Nick Batum and his vision and his passing ability on the court. Plus, Nick worked all summer on developing his NBA game, focusing on his NBA game. He eschewed, going overseas, playing for France, something that he's done for a very long time, to basically focus on his game and becoming a more efficient player, because, as we've said many times, his usage percentage has gone up significantly from his days in Portland. He's a much bigger part of this Hornets team than he was those Trailblazers teams, but his efficiency has gone down. His effective field goal percentage, his three-point percentage, taking a dip over the last 2 years, and I think he definitely wanted to solve that. And, even with that dip in efficiency, he was still one of the better three-point shooters for the Charlotte Hornets. And last night, they shoot 19% from beyond the arc. So I think they will be missing his three-point shooting no matter how long he is out. But this is obviously good news. Check out Rick Bonnell on the Charlotte Observer, and we'll have more analysis of this certainly tomorrow once we get a few more details in. Let's head over to the chat now and see if we've got anything on this. If I can get the chat to pull up. There we go. We've got Andrew saying, how did you feel Monk played in the pick and roll last night? Well, I thought he played very well in the pick and roll. I thought he handled himself very well at the point guard position. Nick, quick comments on that before we get into this game in full?
Yeah, it's an encouraging start from him playing that position. I mean, we really weren't sure what to expect. He did make some, it wasn't all good decisions, but you're not expecting it to be figured out at this point. Especially things towards the end, the shot selection got a little dicey, but he was, earlier on kind of doing a little bit better as a distributor. So not bad.
All right, we got a couple of Australians in the building. Dan and Simon, both from Australia, saying it's Tuesday night over there. Well, welcome in. Thanks to our international listeners. We've got a little. I wonder if they all meet up. I know Australia is a big country. Maybe they don't all live. I think we got someone from Melbourne here. Maybe they live in different cities. But I'd hope that you guys meet up, watch Hornets games. That'd be fun. David saying, "What up to the nest? I just went coast to coast like D12. Only I went from Gaston County to the QC. Gaston County repping. I'm from Gastonia. I love the gas house. I mean, Gaston County's a big county. Maybe not from Gastonia, but DJ saying, yeah, look forward to seeing that Kemba to Dwight connection. All right, that's what the chat wants to talk about. Let's talk about it. Miami taking on Miami last night in Miami, the Charlotte Hornets. No MKG was out for personal reasons. He was joined on the injury list with point guards Michael Carter-Williams, Julian Stone, and Marcus Page. All three backup point guards sitting on the bench for this one. And, of course, Nick Batum. The Heat were without Goran Dragic for a second straight game. He's been resting off of his EuroLeague play. The Heat came out red hot from three, and the Hornets fell behind early. The offense picked up in the second quarter, though. Malik Monk had 8 points in the frame, and Dwight Howard added 6 and 4 rebounds in the second. The Hornets shot 60%, forced 8 Heat turnovers, and went into the break up 62-54. Kemba Walker leaving the game early in the second half, though, after taking a hit to the face, got an elbow from Josh Richardson. He'd returned to the bench, but not to the game. It allowed the Heat to tighten things up late. Hornets down 3 with less than 20 seconds to go. Malik Monk gets several chances to tie it up, but they all go begging. Hornets lose 109-106. Monk finished with a team-high 19 points. Dwight Howard dropped 16 points and 6 rebounds. Nick, 2 big stories, I think, for me out of this one. The Hornets introducing a series of offensive actions to free up Dwight Howard on the lob play, and the rookies once again trying to dominate offensively and maybe struggling a little bit defensively. What were your storylines out of this game? What did you see?
Yeah, that lob action with Howard I think we expected it coming into the season, but actually witnessing it firsthand is really nice. We've been kind of wanting that for a long time with our big men. Like, I think for a number of years we were hoping Biyombo would be able to develop that skill, and I think if he was able to, that would have really, really helped him offensively. But he never quite did it. So seeing, for Dwight, it's second nature. He's been doing this his entire career. So it's got to be nice to just have that play off the screen and roll. With Monk, and the rookies, you could just really tell, particularly at the end, their legs, they lost their legs. That was a new situation for them, at least professionally speaking, right? Monk was definitely forcing it. And I'm not, I know it's preseason and it's not a big deal at this point, but that's a great learning point. I'm sure Clifford's going to go over those final few possessions with
there's plenty of tape on Malik Monk after last night.
Oh yeah.
He took his shots. 7 of 22 from the field.
Yeah. So I think that's, it's a great teaching point for him and for Bacon to really show okay, and this is, I'm glad that you're willing to take these shots. But understand kind of the situation you're in at this point.
Yeah, I want to go to those lob plays. I've got a little video to play here of some of these lob plays off the pick and roll. You can see Dwight Howard loves to slip that screen early, and Dwight taking Miami to Dwight House. Oh gosh.
I go to the White House.
There we go. And then even Malik Monk getting involved in the Dwight action there, drawing the foul. And then again, Kemba trying to go in transition. Now this is where you get into sort of Char'lob City. This is the sort of Clippers action, getting involved in transition. But there's Monk again, that time to Mango Mathiang, who I thought had a pretty good game as well. And then another one from Kemba to Dwight Howard. So that connection is going to be very important, I think, Nick, because even without Nick Batum on the floor, I think so much. I mean, we talk a lot about Jeremy Lamb and what can he do, and he left the game hurt as well, had some groin soreness, so we'll get an update on his status soon. But even with Jeremy Lamb entering and his ability to score, I think they're going to depend so much on Kemba Walker and Dwight Howard developing a potent weapon in that pick and roll. And one of those tools that they have is the lob action. And I think part of what you saw last night was getting Dwight in that lob play on tape to free things up for Kemba, because Kemba was very deferential to Dwight last night. And if teams start planning for that, if they start sinking down, trying to throw 2 guys at Dwight Howard, well, you got a guy in Kemba Walker that can expose you in the paint, in the mid-range, and at the three-point line. So it's going to open up a lot for him as well.
Yeah, it could be a deadly combination. If teams have to recognize both players in that pick and roll action, they're going to be able to get some open shots. So, yeah, I think this is going to be the most effective way to get these two connected early on. without Batum, this is really the best option for them at this point, and I'm sure they'll develop other things as the season goes along. But yeah, it's encouraging to see it working. I know he didn't make all of the lobs last night, or at least in those clips. But still, I mean, they're throwing it and they're looking for it, and that's great to see.
Well, listen, Miami's a team that's known for executing on defense and being very defensively sound with Eric Spoelstra at the helm and a lot of guys who are very quick and very athletic. And this was also a week in between the Detroit game and this game that the Hornets were introducing a lot of offense. You heard that from both Jeremy Lamb and Coach Clifford, that this was a learning week. This was a mental week of getting more stuff in. And so it's nice to see the Hornets offense evolving. I mean, how many times, Nick, in 5 years have they run action to get a lob play? Like, I think they may have equaled it last night. Even attempts.
Right. I don't think, and that's not an exaggeration either. Like, I think
no.
you might actually be right there. Yeah, they haven't had a player with the capability of actually doing this maybe ever. So, I mean, as good as Al Jefferson was in the paint, he was not catching lobs.
Athleticism, it's one thing that, this team has tended towards skill and tended towards IQ and not necessarily gone out and got athletic enough to run that lob play. And they have a guy in Dwight Howard who not only is athletic enough to do that, he showed it last night, but also they're confident he has the basketball IQ, the smarts to run all of their offensive action. My favorite one of those lobs, I think I had it on the video. I'm not sure where exactly it is, but it was Dwight setting a down here. It was actually Monk. Sorry, Monk coming around on the dribble handoff, and that's the one he got fouled on. I mean, that to me, what do you guard at that point? You've got the quickness of Monk. You've got Dwight Howard's strength and effectiveness in the post. They decided to go with Monk on that play, and Dwight Howard made them pay, and they, he drew a flagrant on that play. So, this is with Kemba and Monk and their quickness paired with Dwight Howard. I think you have to be excited by those prospects on offense.
Yeah, it's nice. It's just because we haven't seen Monk a lot at all prior to preseason. It's nice to see how well he's able to move on the floor. He does not look, he looks like he belongs on there. He's quick enough. There's the one clip. I don't know if, it might have been from the Detroit game even, where he just was able to beat his defender off one dribble, get 2 steps to the hoop, and he was able to finish. And it was a tough finish. And you're thinking, like, again, for a 6'3" guard, he looks like he belongs out there. He has the speed, he has the quickness. So when you add that element into this already, with Kemba, with Dwight, this is looking pretty good.
Yeah, we talked about the rookies being aggressive once again. 39 attempts combined between Malik Monk and Dwayne Bacon, and you can see Clifford obviously wants to get them plenty of minutes, especially Malik Monk played 35 in this preseason game to try to get him ready for the regular season because he did miss Summer League. And I think, if you watched, if you had a chance to watch, if you were one of the lucky few to pick up a link and you watched it last night, his legs definitely look like a guy that hadn't played a lot in the summer, suddenly played 35 minutes, and at the end of the game he was airballing a few threes. But I don't think it's any concern because this is exactly what you want. You want him to go out there and keep shooting, keep attempting, and get your legs under you before the regular season, I think. What did you think of a lot of questions about his point guard skills because he really was the main point guard for the team after Kemba Walker went down with that elbow to the face. So what did you think about his decision-making? Do you think he could capably run the point for short stretches during the regular season?
I think it's certainly possible. He's going to have stricter – they're going to give him stricter things to do. He won't have as much free reign in the regular season. I think tonight was about, we're going to give you the ball here. You're going to be with that final 5 at the end of the game. See what you can do, see if you can win us the game. And I think that's why you saw a lot of the shots hoisted up. He definitely forced a few of those. But regular season comes, they're going to say, when you run point, this is what we want you to do.
Yeah.
And if he can, as long as he is disciplined, I think it should be all right.
And what you're going to see from Monk, and he's told, I believe he told Scott Fowler this for the Charlotte Observer, that he's not a fancy dribbler. He doesn't try to do a lot with his dribble. He's not in that Steph Curry mode in terms of, trying to knock guys off their stride when he's playing the point guard position. He tries to keep things simple, make the simple pass. He did have kind of one signature pass that he's displayed so far, which is, he'll drive and then sort of toss it back a little behind his head, swing it back to whoever screened for him. So that's kind of his signature move, although he did have one nice baseline drive. TJ Williams cut down the lane, and he sees it and drops it off to TJ for an easy layup. So, he's showing flashes. He's not going to be he's not going to have those. I don't think he's going to have many highlight assists, but I think if he focuses on his first year on not making mistakes, he had 2 turnovers late in this game. One, he tried to kind of over-dribble, and Kelly Olynyk caught him, stole it, and it led to a Josh Richardson dunk. And then there was another one where he tried to get it out to Cody, and the pass was just a little off target. And that's the thing with the NBA. If you're just a little off target, NBA defenders are going to expose that. So up and down game for him in terms of his point guard ability, but showed enough flashes, I think, where fans can be confident that he will develop in that area. Who did you think, just based on, I know you didn't get a chance to watch, Nick, but you saw the box score. Who did you think maybe had a kind of a rough showing for this third preseason game?
Well, again, a very limited action to be able to see it. Only 2 points on 1 of 4 shooting from Frank Kaminsky.
Yeah, that was one of mine for sure.
Yeah, I was going to kind of ask you about that because it's...
Ask me.
He got the start tonight. He only played 18 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
They obviously moved Marvin to the 3.
Yeah.
Was it just I don't know. What was the deal with him?
It was I thought it was a strange, quiet night. Maybe it wasn't a big night for Frank Kaminsky to really show anything in particular. It was a strange playing group. You've got Marvin at the 3, Frank at the 4, and Dwight at the 5. Probably not something they've practiced a ton of. Up situation, and maybe you chalk some of it up to that. What's funny? Remember, Nick, when we were keeping an eye on Justice Winslow versus, I always get it wrong. I always say Justice. I want it to be Justice, but it's not. It's Justice Winslow versus Frank Kaminsky. And they really, neither of them really settled anything in that preseason action. Both of them were far off. And I don't know, Nick, if you've been paying attention to remember when we did that segment, What's Happening in the NBA with Nick Denning? I don't know if you've been paying attention to what's happening with Justice Winslow, but a lot of the focus in this offseason in Miami is around questions about whether Justice Winslow can be effective at all offensively. And he didn't take his first attempt in this game until 6:30 to go in the fourth quarter. Now, he had a couple of key buckets late that allowed Miami to get the win, but they were against, far inferior competition and sort of garbage time, essentially, minutes in this preseason game. I think if you're a Miami fan, you've got to walk away going, what is going on with Winslow and his confidence and his ability to shoot and anything with him offensively? It was, not a great. We've had a couple of good signs this offseason from Frank Kaminsky. Certainly some frustrating signs as well. But with Justice, it's they're expecting a lot from him and not getting a lot.
Yeah, I think it kind of shows how much the draft is a crapshoot. Because I think, again, we go back to that draft, and I think when Winslow was available, that's who everyone wanted. He had the name. He looked great at Duke. And now we flash forward, into entering year 3, and neither of them have established themselves yet. I won't. I know there's the other option on the table that night for the Hornets allegedly, but I'm hopeful that Frank, we saw that month of play last season in February, where he finally showed a lot of confidence in his abilities, particularly on offense. And, again, this is just maybe the nature of the night. I mean, I think the story the box score and everything shows that it was about the rookies trying to, work through some things. And, maybe it just wasn't Frank's night to get some touches. It wasn't like he shot 2 for 11. He just didn't really get involved in the offense, really.
Yeah, exactly. Did have 3 assists, and I think that's a positive sign.
Yeah.
If he can have 3 or 4 assists a game and really help liquidate that second unit offense, I think that would be a positive sign. And only one turnover, so he wasn't making mistakes either. Didn't attempt a three-point shot. That to me says that he didn't attempt a three-point shot. I think this game was about getting lob opportunities for Dwight Howard, and it was a weird playing group. And I just wouldn't buy too much into what happened in that one preseason game. The preseason game in that second half turned into like a summer league game with Bacon and Monk just putting up as many shots as possible. So TJ Williams, I thought, stepping in because Page was hurt, Julian Stone was hurt, Michael Carter-Williams still working his way back. 18 minutes, 2 of 4 from the field, 4 points, 2 steals, 1 block. So I thought TJ Williams did a nice job. Maybe he ends up in Greensboro. Who knows? And then we've got a question from the chat. Roland saying, will Marcus Page make it? Well, he had a right ankle sprain that kept him out of last night's game, but he's on a two-way contract, so he's heading to Greensboro. And will he get called up? Well, look, I mean, Julian Stone's missed some time in this preseason period, and Michael Carter-Williams, how will his knees react once he gets actually into some 5-on-5 action in practice and then eventually maybe into a preseason game? Those are all question marks. And if those continue to be question marks, then all of a sudden, Marcus Page, that's the guy you call up. So will he make it? Well, he's made the team. I mean, he's on the two-way contract. Will he continue with the team? Will he get called up? I think right now you'd have to think probably, with everything going on at that backup point guard position.
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely get a shot.
Yeah. Hornets owner Michael Jordan is on quite a roll in the headlines. And you know what that means, Nick? It's time for another edition of In Fairness to His Airness.
You know who is good at basketball? Michael Jordan.
All right, time for a little In Fairness to His Airness. So first, Jordan spearheads changes to the All-Star Game in an effort to save it from irrelevancy in time for Charlotte to host the All-Star Game in 2019. Then, I don't know if you saw this, Nick, he emailed Amazon CEO Jeff Bezos to request that their second headquarters be built in the city of Charlotte. Charlotte up for that headquarters too would be a huge boon for the city, and Michael Jordan as one of its premier members getting involved trying to get that headquarters in Charlotte. I know that probably stings you a little bit, with your Raleigh, flying your Raleigh flags over there saying Raleigh's better than Charlotte. That's right, Nick on record saying Raleigh better than Charlotte. How dare you? Then Michael Jordan celebrated the second Charlotte City Park renovation led by the Charlotte Hornets Swarm to Serve initiative, and he finished up the week by announcing a $7 million donation to fund 2 medical clinics, one in North Charlotte and one in Northwest Charlotte, 2 areas of financial need. Nick, how important is it for Michael Jordan to continue to be involved in the Charlotte community?
It's huge because, again, part of this whole, not just bringing a professional basketball team back, but then trying to heal some of the wounds, I guess, so to speak, of that team, of the original ownership of, the Bobcats, basically. It's big. There needs to be this continued, showing of support for the community, because that's, winning's going to help as well, but just showing, if he and the franchise continue to show that they do care about Charlotte, that they're actively involved in Charlotte, that's going to continue to help things beyond basketball that I think will bring even more support in, regardless of how the team is doing.
Double M15 dropping by saying, "What up, Nest?"
Bees everywhere.
There you go. That's for you, Double M15. He's the loyal watcher and listener. Thanks. Make sure you're subscribed to us on iTunes, Stitcher, Overcast, so you can get these episodes. Even if you don't get a chance to watch us on YouTube, you can get those delivered to your podcast feed every day. Now, great points, Nick, on Michael Jordan being involved with the community when, look, I think every small to mid-sized market is under the threat of relocation at all times. I don't think it's reserved for any particular city. I think that's always a danger, and you've got Seattle sort of sitting out there waiting for an NBA franchise. Do they get a new one, or does a team move? And so when you see things like this, when you see Michael Jordan being so invested monetarily and with his time into the community of Charlotte, despite living in Florida. He has a couple of places here in Charlotte, but he really lives in Florida. And to be spending his time and money here in Charlotte, I think that's a big deal, huge deal for the city. Makes you proud, makes you want to spend your money with the franchise because you know they're doing things here in the city. One interesting comment, though, from Steve Clifford had a few of our Buzzamaniacs buzzing, interested, their ears perked up, their antennas perked up. I'm going to roll with this as long as I can. This was the comment, quote, you play for an owner who's very involved in personnel decisions. And he was referencing why the team was a good practice team. And he said one of the reasons is you have an owner who's very involved in the personnel decisions. So that had a lot of people going, oh my goodness, oh man, Michael Jordan once again sticking his nose where it doesn't belong. He's the owner. He should stay in the owner's suite and let the GM run the team and let the coach the team. Nick, what do you think about that comment?
I just think I think Clifford's talking about him being just more actively involved than most owners.
Yeah.
And maybe it's some fans' preference to just have the owner, just kind of absent, but that's never really been Jordan's style. And I know that it's rarely been
right. Any multi-millionaire style to buy something that's worth millions of dollars and just to chill. Like that's what I don't understand about these kind of conversations. It's one thing if he were the director of basketball operations and he got involved in coaching decisions, and I don't think he really gets involved in coaching decisions at all, like a Jerry Jones coming down on the sidelines and calling plays or anything like that. But I think what's absurd about this whole about getting nervous about this or upset about this is like he owns it. Like if I own something. My Xbox, I make decisions about my Xbox because I bought it. I own it. I don't know. It just seems weird to me, this whole conversation. But I do understand the perspective of you want people that are dealing with things day to day to make day to day decisions. And I don't think that's what Clifford meant by those comments. And I think you and I are on the same page there.
Yeah, if there's a difference between being involved and like meddling in things that he doesn't have like the best understanding of. I mean, I think ideally franchises are run when the input of those, like you said, they're involved day to day, are able to make those decisions and at least offer the advice, and
right.
Get it recognized. And I don't think that I just feel like the track record of this team the past few years, particularly since Clifford has joined the team, doesn't reflect one that's being, run in two, or I don't see two different visions necessarily. I mean,
rarely. I think the Plumlee decision last year is one that you could point to and go, was this exactly what was this exactly a Steve Clifford type of player, type of decision? I don't know the answer to that, but right. I think it's certainly fair to question that, or was that a hey, we've got to win type right. of move? And I think it's fair to question that. But on the whole, I think you're right. This has been the decisions have been mostly Rich Cho type of decisions, and those have been reflective of the fact that you have Steve Clifford coaching. I look at the Dwight Howard decision. I mean, Howard's a Clifford guy. It's a guy that Clifford really believes in. And to go right. out and to acquire that player, I think was a wheel correction on that Plumlee decision. So I think it was a comment that got some people riled up, but I don't think it's a really big deal. But always interesting to talk about Michael Jordan, in fairness to his airness. All right, Nick, final thoughts on what we've learned so far in preseason. The Hornets not practicing today. So the next time that you're going to get a chance to see them is October 11th, Wednesday, tomorrow night, against the Boston Celtics here in Charlotte. It's the first home preseason game. That one tips off. I'm going to check that because these preseason times always trip me up. I'll check that time. But Nick, final thoughts as we head into the first home preseason game.
Interested to see if they continue to run Monk at the point. I think it would probably depend on, if any other point guards are healthy. interested to see how they use Bacon. They kind of used him in some interesting sets last night off of out of bounds plays. Got him some looks that he didn't make. And then final thought. Aside from I loved your Master of None bit there. You may get Amazon. You may get Amazon, Doug, but we will probably get MLS. So
that's fine. I'm good. Yeah, give me my 1 day Whole Foods delivery, and you can have your footy ball. I'll take my 1 hour delivery. I'll take getting something from the Whole Foods deli at cheaper prices now, delivered to me immediately, and you can have soccer. That's fine. That's a fair trade. The game tomorrow night, 7:00 p.m. on ESPN. You will be able to watch the Hornets in preseason. Okay, we will be here tomorrow morning at 8:00 here on YouTube, youtube.com/Locked On Hornets, or of course on your podcast feed with a preview of that game. So we're going to get out of here. Follow us on Twitter at Locked On Hornets for live tweets on the game. And shout out, by the way, to @Hornets Gifts for helping getting us that video on the lobs. Make sure you give that guy a follow. Just great stuff coming out. That's I don't know if he wants his identity revealed, but it is our producer, Captain Kurt, who's behind that operation. So give @Hornets Gifts on Twitter a follow, because he's doing some just great work here in the preseason when demand for video is high because you can't find it anywhere. He's helping you out. Thanks so much for listening to Locked On Hornets here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Give us your Hornets questions and thoughts. You can email them to buzzbuzz@lockedonhornets.com or join us here on YouTube on the live chat, and we will answer them then. For Nick, I'm Doug, and the rest of the crew here at Locked On Hornets, we're saying go Hornets, go America, let's swarm Charlotte. Charlotte's better.